So you held on to the questions because
Saved them. I'll put a date on them. Whose they are. The interview was done by Terrance Carney. This date. So, if somebody years from now wants to know, wants to see, I document, man.
okay.
So those were great questions.
Yeah, there were two that I didn't ask. Just seemed like it was so insignificant. But the others were pretty good.
I've never had people ask me that, even in regular conversations over the years. Tell me about the difference between your grandparents. What? Cool question.
That's kind of always been on the charts for me. It's one of the questions that folks don't get to, and that's where you need to start because, well, whoever you're interviewing didn't come out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be nice to know
Yeah, their behavior comes out.
where your
Yeah.
DNA is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't realize my answer would be, my honest answer would be, I learned from these two entirely different families. Entirely different. And back to class. I mean, really. And that's what I'm working on now. That's what I'm writing about now.
Started to sound like the old story of what was it, the hillbilly folks, the McCoys and the
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're of the same family. And I married into an entirely different family. And like Joe Pesci says in a movie, Lethal Weapon, he said, no, it's not, Joe Pesci says, it's not better, it's just different. And that's the way I feel about my family who is gone. They're all gone. My immediate family, they're all gone. My uncles, my aunts, my mother, and my father, my grandparents, they're gone. Then I happen to marry into an entirely different family altogether. It's not better, it's just different.
Yeah.
So when you ask me that question, I'm thinking class. And that's only because I'm reading about class. This black guy who wrote this book recently about class. It's not race, it's class. Sure enough. And that struck me emotionally. And then now I see it in my...
Well, when I think about that though, all I really think about is that class gets you so far before the ethnic thing can possibly take over. And really, it depends on where you sit on that pedestal. For most of everything you do, it's all about class. I mean, it doesn't make any difference where you are, if you're black, white, purple, or green, living on the east, the west, or the southern part of the United States. You guys don't even have to talk to each other. You're all doing the same thing. You have the same interests. Okay? But if it gets down to the wire and you have to start making choices, that's when you're looking for excuses, and that's when the ethnic thing comes in or the racial thing comes in. You can't, at this point, here, at least, can't get away from that.
But there's always going to be,
Yeah.
there's always going to be, even among the classes, the the English and the French. They were fighting each other because they found some type of difference. Some type of difference. Here, it can be racial. It can be cultural. You find something different. Humans need to find something different. Obviously, white and they need to battle. What was different? Oh, I want your land.
And I don't want to pay for it. So one of the other questions that I had there that I didn't ask, which I was thinking about watching something, I guess, on TV, is when you talk about, you know, animals not having common sense or any sort of analytical sense, and that humans are the only ones that have it. And I'm saying, maybe they do. Maybe they do have some sort of analytical sense that is not the same as ours, but there's a reason why they do what they do. Excuse me. And I'm not necessarily talking about chickens and things like that, but the animals in the wild. So what is that called? What is it that they're doing? That why they wake up at, you know, dawn to go out and find their prey, and how do they find their prey, and how do they make a selection between one or the other? Something's going through their head.
Yeah.
And then I, you know, recently had this awful thought about dogs. They come into the world as orphans, and they stay orphans. It's not like a wild animal that is a wild animal and does what it does. The dog doesn't have an owner. It's marked for extinction. To be put down. And it's nearly akin to being a freaking slave. You're born into slavery. You have your owner. You don't have an owner.
Besides our thumbs, which make us different, is it we have the capacity to analyze, to judge, when dogs might not have that capacity.
Or it's an evolutionary process that it started in one way, maybe in the wild, and now you have this DNA which has been passed down, which has now made you less wild and more domesticated. So now you're dependent upon someone to take care of you. Yeah.
And my job my job while I'm here is to discuss where we are, what do you want, what are you choosing, where you're going, what are your goals, live a peaceful life. The food and love with other human beings that all look different than me. So my job is just to document and discuss how to have a life that you want, that you choose. How do you, and I don't think Andre believes. I always say, when I'm gone, other people, I can help, still help other people by all the stuff that I saved or did. Maybe if all my stuff is blown up, then it's blown up. But if it's not, like Freud from 1939 when he left, if it's saved, it might add value. His stuff or Lincoln's stuff, what he wrote, helped me. But my grandparents didn't write down how they were thinking, how they were feeling. If they did write it down, it's gone. But the one example I use now for myself is that I know 3 of my ancestors signed up for the Civil War. I wouldn't have known that unless they made their mark. They wrote their names. I can't go back further because we were animals considered to them, and we were animals. So we didn't need to learn to write and leave anything. We were just in their books, just animal number 1, number 2, number 5. But now I can maybe leave some documentation.
I can put it in like a coffee cup, or like our regular cup.
I had my stuff on Amazon.
I put it in a coffee cup.
And I kind of felt that once it was up there, that I could just keep on adding to my surprise. The other day when I went up on Amazon to check, it was gone.
What was gone?
The books that I had posted. So my impression now is that they take a look at what's happening with books, and if they're not selling or something of that nature, I mean, I'm not sure. I have to look at where they have something written, but they can take it down. They can take things down. So it's like
They can, but
I wasn't notified.
no. But
But I was surprised at that, which now has me thinking, okay, if that's the case,
That's why I always say to myself, Kerry, if you put something up, have it on a hard drive.
Yeah.
But
But I wanted my stuff to be on more than a hard drive, so that people would have an access whenever. So now
you got to tell me at the end of that, whatever, find out
what
how, why, what.
my option now, I have to still investigate it, but I can, if I want to do Amazon, the easy